It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're living in crazy times.
It's crazy. Solar flares are happening.
Solar flares.
So far
There's-
no damage to the grid as far as I'm aware.
Not that we're aware yet. If we would even be made aware, you know.
Were you keyed into this whole solar flare situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that it created an aurora borealis type visual that has been visible in places where it has never been seen. And as a matter of fact, there is a song from the Muppets, Muppet movie.
Love
called
where this is
Can
going.
You Picture That?
Uh-huh.
And it's sung by Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
Love it.
And it's a silly song, and they're just kind of like saying all these things, like, can you even picture it?
Mm-hmm.
Like all these weird things. And one of the lines is Aurora Borealis shining down in Dallas. Can you picture that?
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Imagine Aurora Borealis in Dallas. Well, it happened.
It happened. The Muppets made it happen.
The Muppets predicted the Aurora Borealis being seen in Texas, in Dallas.
And they didn't do that just because Borealis rhymes with Dallas. That wasn't the reason.
No, not at all.
No, it was in anticipation of this.
They had knowledge of the future, and they shared it with us.
Did you wait? But we didn't get any, because I did look out my window and I didn't see any Borealises where I live. Did you see anything?
Honey, you see any Borealises out
Hold
there?
on.
Aurora or otherwise?
Is there any Borealises out in the sky tonight? Did you see anything?
It doesn't have to be an Aurora one.
Yeah.
No, but I also didn't really look.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I will say that I was out rather late last night.
Okay.
I was at a Netflix is a Joke show,
humble brag,
as you know, in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles around this time, they do the Netflix is a Joke festival, and they bring out comedians, and they do shows and things like that. And a friend of mine invited me out to one that didn't start until like 10:45 p.m. And I'm like, I want to be in bed right now. But anyway, but the point is I was out late enough to maybe see something, but I wasn't I didn't even think about it. And then I was in bed at like 1:30 a.m. and I'm doom scrolling on my phone with the phone this close to my face.
That's what doctors recommend.
They do recommend. They do.
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh shit, Aurora Borealis. I'm like, oh, maybe if I went up to the roof of my apartment building, maybe I could see like a little coloration in the distance, but I don't think it was visible really from where we are.
I don't think it helps that we live in one of the biggest cities on the planet.
It doesn't.
A lot of light pollution.
So much light pollution that we probably have seen something similar to what the Aurora Borealis was showing us last night, but in disgusting
smog filled
pollution.
That was such a trip when I first moved out here. Like every building has a posting on it that's like, by the way, merely by living within the city limits of Los Angeles, you might get lung cancer. And it's like, oh, cool, great.
Let's go. I mean, if the microplastics don't kill us first, it'll be the pollution.
Well, listen, I feel like this is a great transition from, we're talking about the apocalypse, sort of, right? So
end of the world.
Yeah. So before we went on air, you were talking about how you just finished Fallout, which is one of my favorite shows of the year so far.
Yes.
Really enjoying it. What did you think of Fallout?
Well, so it took me a second to it was one of those shows where I started watching it and I was like, okay, I guess I see the tone. I get the tone is like very tongue in cheek and silly, but also like incredibly serious and scary at times. And I always struggle with that attempt at a tone in especially in a series like that, and especially in one that's based off of a video game series that is largely not silly.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it became kind of like a silly show, I was like, all right, well, this is where modern stuff is going. Like the Thor Ragnaroks of it all, you know, with the like everybody loves quippy, silly, Deadpool-y shit now. And, you know, we can't just have our serious programming anymore. We got to have like we got to have comedians take a pass at the script and jump in and throw in some stupid lines or something. So I was a little off put by the Deadpool-ness of the jokery.
Yeah.
The violence fit with the show so well.
Yeah.
But because of the tone, it never felt like there were any real stakes. And especially since in like the first episode, we see someone nearly die from a fatal stab wound, but then they use the stim pack, which is it was so awesome to see them using a stim pack in a live action thing. And he even made the sound.
Yeah.
And I love all the little Easter eggs and stuff, but I was like, okay, so no one, if we're using video game rules in this in this like gritty reality that we're meant to believe is not a cartoon world, even though there's a lot of proof that we're in a cartoon world, in a lot of ways, it made it seem like, okay, so then no one can die because if you have a stim pack, there's no death. And then there's people that live for like 400 years. And it's like, in video games, I buy it. In a show where I'm meant to accept the reality of the world they're presenting us, I was a little bit like, okay, well, you're going to be tongue-in-cheek and silly, or you're going to be serious. And because of the tones shifting, I just never felt like there was ever stakes.
Okay. All right. You know, it's interesting.
But I enjoyed it overall. I was just disappointed in some of the choices.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's something I think for me, its ability to capture the tone and the spirit of the game so well. I found I enjoyed so much that I didn't think about the kind of the tension there with, because it takes place in the canon of the games. It is the same, you talked about you're going back and playing Fallout 4. I went back and I missed Fallout New Vegas because it was a spin-off game, and then everybody was like, no, but it's the best one, so I went back to that one.
I know. Isn't that crazy when you go back to learn? Because the show, what it did better than anything was it made everyone I know want to play a Fallout game, even if they've never played it before. And I'm like, well, this is brilliant fucking marketing. At the very least. And so I know everyone went to re-download or download these games for the first time. And for me, I played Fallout 3 and 4 as they came out way back in the day. And I loved them. I'm like, these are cool RPGs, and I love all the customization and all the world is really cool, and the show captured the world really well. But it just felt like the tone was like, okay, so they're going with the, like, doesn't it feel like what's that game? Borderlands. Is it Borderlands?
Borderlands, yeah, that's got a movie coming out soon.
That movie's coming out. And can't you just feel that they're also gonna do the like Deadpool-y, jokey F-word thing, and it's gonna be funny?
Yeah, well, definitely. I've never played a Borderlands game, so I cannot speak to the tone of that. But the trailer definitely gave me that vibe. But something you brought up that I hadn't. I mean, I felt it in the moment, but I just went with it because of the games. But the idea of like, yeah, man, just saying that you're in the universe of the games and like stim packs are a thing. It's trickier in a show. It's trickier to do in a show. It'd be like if you made a Call of Duty movie. And it's like, it's a gritty war drama, but also if you hide around this corner for a few seconds, that bullet wound, that gaping bullet hole in your chest will heal up a little bit. Yeah, and you're like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing now.
Yeah. And the video game logic is like, and I understand that there is a fine line between like, you really want to satisfy the built-in audience that loves this stuff, but you also want to like be respectful to people that have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
And that line is really hard to like toe.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what are you going to do? Is it fan service, or is it like introducing people to the world?
Yeah.
And I think they really did well balancing both of those things.
Yeah.
Like, my girlfriend didn't know anything about Fallout, and she, as soon as we watched like 2 episodes, she was like, okay, what's this game then?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the game. And I'm like, because every time something Easter eggy, fan servicey would happen in the show, in the first 2 or 3 episodes, I was like, oh, they're doing it. Yeah. I was like that meme with Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV. I was like, oh, that's crazy. crazy, and the terminals are even all the Pip Boys.
Dude, when he goes to hack the thing and that screen comes up with all the stuff, I was like, I can't. That commitment, man. That's commitment.
Well, it brought me back. It totally brought me back to why I love those games.
Yeah.
Because you could just do whatever you want in that universe, in that world. I guess I just like, I always love to see when they make a video game adaptation out of something, like what actually works in like making it reality based as much as they possibly can.
Yeah. Well, I think any fan of yours knows you famously hate jokes. So, you know what I mean?
I hate comedy. I just, it's like, I guess I just struggle with like, am I meant to think everything's funny now in the show?
For me, it felt pretty close, especially going back and playing New Vegas. It's been a minute since I played 4, but going back and playing New Vegas, there is that kind of like heightened, darkly comic, leaning into the ridiculousness of we all live in a ruined wasteland now, and I guess this is our lives.
All trying to survive.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to play Fallout New Vegas, and I was also kind of confused about the chronology of the games, and then I realized that New Vegas came out before Fallout 3.
It comes out. It was between Fallout 3 and 4.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it was 3, and then Obsidian did New Vegas, and then 4 came out.
That makes sense, because I remember playing 3 and being like, man, this is a great game.
Yeah.
This is great. My first Fallout 3, very good. And then they were like, we got Fallout New Vegas coming out. And I'm like, dude, I love Vegas. And I would love to do a Fallout in Vegas. And then they were like, except it's a different game studio. And it's not Obsidian, or it's Obsidian.
Yeah, instead of Bethesda. Yeah.
Instead of Bethesda. And everyone was like, immediately wrote it off when it came out because of that.
Yep.
But then like it developed such a huge cult following because it's a fucking amazing game.
Yeah, exactly. And that, you and I were in the same boat. I was like, oh, it's a spin-off studio. I'll get around to it. You know, right, and then fast forward, I think 14 years. I think that game came out in 2010.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, all right. And I will say, going from playing like modern games back to like, I had to dust off because it was either I got a PS3 version or an Xbox 360 version.
Right.
And so I had to, because I could have gotten the PS Network, but I'm not going to get the whole PS Network just to play one game.
And I also did the same rigmarole. Yeah. I was like, I was like, what's the easiest way to play this game? And luckily I have a PC. So I'm like, well,
go to Steam or whatever. Yeah.
And then I went online and I was like, okay, Fallout New Vegas PC. And I read that like the only way to play it is with like 4,000 modifications that like make the game better, and it's like all unofficial, and it's all like you just and it's all very meticulous too. It's like if you want it, because you're right, the what you mentioned I was going to bring up, which was like, Fallout 4 is like they just optimized it for next gen consoles, and it looks fucking gorgeous. You can run it at 60 frames per second, and it's like when you switch from the OG FPS of Fallout 4 to like 60 frames, it's like, oh, wow, this is a different game.
Yeah.
So I'm just enjoying how beautiful it looks and how well it performs on the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but I got to play New Vegas.
Yeah.
Like, I got to play New Vegas, but I've seen like the screenshots and shit. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do this graphical jump.
Yeah, I'm in it now. Like I'm 20 hours in at this point. But it took me a few hours to be like, because I just replayed Cyberpunk because it just got an upgrade in DLC, and I heard it was like good now. So I just went from that back to 2010 New Vegas
like,
on my 360 that I had to dust off, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just a learning curve. But now I'm like back into that headspace.
Yeah, are you enjoying it?
Dude, I'm loving it, man. Because again, it's that
4?
I played 3 and 4. I did exactly what you did. I started with 3, skipped New Vegas, did 4. And it's just one of those.
This is exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I got to jump into New Vegas.
Yeah, so then it was just a matter of like finding a used copy and like dusting off my old system because I don't have a PC. That would, in this instance, that would make my life easier. But yeah, and for those, thank you, Steve, for laying this up for me. For those that are also confused about the Fallout timeline, check out the episode I did with Roxy where we go through the full Fallout timeline and where the show fits in. Check it out.
Good plug.